Hello ladies, hello gentlemen, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm starting a project where I recycle those used £25,000 pair of sneakers, meaning that I'll take them apart first, piece by piece, physically and verbally, and then use those materials in adding little details for a leather bag that I'll be working on soon. And from the verbal take apart, hopefully we could all find something we could use. To some people, it might feel absurd that I place a £25,000 pair of sneakers on a table and decide to take them apart. So I hesitate, not because I'm afraid of damaging it, but because I'm afraid what taking it apart might reveal. A shoe is only a shoe until enough people decided something else. The Louis Vuitton Nike Air Force 1, designed by Virgil Abloh, is a shoe that is no longer simply worn, but believed in. Why do people pay so much for what is, materially speaking, leather, rubber, thread, and glue? And maybe even more interestingly, why does that question bother us at all? At this point, even I'm reconsidering my decision, trying to calculate if it's really worth it to be flouting around with what could feed a village in Syria for a whole month. But I guess to make the point for those that never even thought about feeding a village, it's worth it. And maybe after watching this video, they'll think about more than just feeding a bitter village. The first incision feels almost intrusive, as if I'm cutting into the mythology itself. But economic theory teaches us a simple but devastating truth. Price and value do not necessarily coincide. In fact, they rarely do. Capital accumulates in ways that exceeds its practical utility. Wealth is not just a function of usefulness, it is a function of social meaning. A shoe, therefore, can become capital, not because of what it does, but because of what it signifies. A sneaker doesn't cost £25,000 because it objectively provides £25,000 worth of utility. Its value is instead located in a social ecosystem where scarcity, branding, craftsmanship, and cultural mythology converge into economic symbolism. In other words, price is not a reflection of essence. Price is a reflection of power. What I'm digging my blade in right now is probably the most luxurious Nike swoosh ever. Luxurious not because it's expensive, but rather expensive because it must remain a luxury. Scarcity is engineered, not discovered. The term conspicuous consumption is the act of spending money in ways that are meant to be seen. To consume conspicuously is to speak a social language, to communicate financial capacity, social position, and the absence of economic constraint. From a macroeconomic standpoint, a collaborative artifact like this becomes a positional good, whose value is defined by the fact that not everyone can have them. Its price is justified by scarcity, and scarcity is maintained intentionally through limited releases, controlled supply chains, and the cultural mystique of luxury houses. In a world marked by extreme wealth concentration, this sneaker circulates in elite networks where ownership communicates class position more effectively than speech ever could. Don't look at this mistake I made. I probably won't be using that silver part of the shoe anyway. But if we look at the individual that buys this shoe, why would any rational person do the mistake of acquiring such a thing? Because humans are not rational agents. We are emotional creatures using logic only as a justification tool. We do not make economic choices. We make psychological ones. Scarcity triggers urgency. Social proof triggers desire. Loss aversion pushes us to buy now before prices rise. The fear of missing out becomes a kind of financial oxygen. People justify irrational financial decisions because they're chasing meaning, narrative, and status, not utility. In sneaker culture, price becomes self-reinforcing. The more outrageous it is, the more symbolic power it generates. The irrationality becomes part of the object's charm. I could have left this second shoe as a souvenir, but it's just not my taste. Taste is not innocent. It's social conditioning disguised as personal preference. People do not simply like things. Their preferences are shaped by class, culture, education, and aspiration. So when someone buys a shoe like this, they're not just buying footwear. They're buying the ability to be recognized as someone with elite taste, cultural fluency, and financial capacity. The LV Air Force 1 is an identity machine, not a product, but a performance. In design theory, objects are never just objects. Design tells a story long before we open our mouths. Good design lives in the marriage of form and meaning, but great design transcends function, entering the realm of emotional resonance. Virgil Abloh's work with Louis Vuitton operated on this level. The LV Air Force 1 is a hybrid of streetwear heritage and luxury craftsmanship, a symbolic handshake between two cultural empires. Objects acquire meaning through the images and narratives around them. What we see in this shoe is shaped not just by the materials, but by the cultural narrative. Virgil's story, Louis Vuitton's legacy, Nike's history, and the mythology of the Air Force 1 silhouette. Design gives the shoe its language, culture gives it its accent, the buyer gives it its meaning. Consumption is not about use, but about science. We buy not to possess, but to become. The LV Air Force 1 is less a sneaker than it is a semiotic vessel, a signifier of wealth, cultural capital, aspiration, and symbolic importance. Its material form is almost irrelevant. It operates in the realm of simulation, where meaning replaces practicality. For some, this shoe is an investment, a financial asset that appreciates. For others, it's a collectible, a piece of design history, a relic of Virgil's legacy. And for many, it is a statement, a way of saying, I belong to this world, this culture. For me, it was the subject of a video and the source of materials. In all cases, the object functions as a mirror. It reflects not just who we are, but who we want to be interpreted as. So here's the irony. As we take the shoe apart, piece by piece, we also dismantle the entire ideological structure that made it valuable. The leather is just leather, the stitching is just stitching, the swoosh is just the swoosh, and yet the aura stays, because the shoe was never really the point. The meaning was, objects are only valuable because we are, because we create value, project it, defend it, and obsess over it. In the end, the LV Air Force 1 is not a shoe, it's a story, a mirror, a cultural performance, a symbol we have chosen to believe in. And like all symbols, its power comes not from what it is, but from what we need it to be. Thank you.